Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our Keep Calm and Teach On series for the spring 2015 semester. Today we are going to be talking about course management, and this is Ashley Polk. I'll be leading the session today, and Lauren Heaton will also jump in and lead the second half of the session. So just a couple of quick housekeeping tips before we really get going. We don't have anyone calling in today, so we can skip over point number one. But for those of you who are joining us with a headset, if you need to test your audio at any point throughout the session, you can run the audio setup wizard. It's located with the little microphone with the red starburst. If you click on that, it will test your audio. So if you have any issues throughout the session, be sure to do that. Also, if you have a question, be sure to use the raise your hand icon that you see in the screenshot there at the bottom. This will let us know that you have a question, of course. If you want to use your mic to ask a question, that's what you need to do first. But you can also use the text box down there at the bottom left and type in your questions. All right, so on the agenda today, we've kind of got the session split into two different sections. So we're going to talk about some internal course management tools and best practices, and then we'll also move into some external course management tools and practices. So we're going to cover the news widget, the content tool, discussions tool, quizzes tool, the Dropbox, and the grades tool. And as we go through each of these, we'll probably just kind of quickly skim over some different things that you might want to try within your course. And we may not be able to go into much detail on how to actually complete those tasks. But if there's time at the end of the session, we can revisit any of those tools. Or, as always, we're happy to set up one-on-one sessions with you to make sure that you know how to complete some of those tasks. And then regarding our external course management, we're going to look at the change request form and just talk about its importance. And then we'll also talk about the SAGE reporting system, the GARD and the vCore, and things like that that you can use to manage your course externally. All right, well, give me just a second and I'm going to start screen sharing. It's being a slowpoke, so just bear with me. Looks like I'm having some technical difficulties. Give me just a second. Well, folks, I had to switch computers, so this is Ashley on Lauren's computer. I do apologize for that. I think this happened during the last time we tried to host the course management webinar, so this is obviously cursed for some reason. Okay, so give me just a second to get into the course that I was going to demo. Let me move things out of the way a little bit. And let's see. Okay, so I'm going to go into one of our demo courses. And let's see. Okay, I think we're on the right track now. So sorry about that. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is the news widget, and this is one of those tools that we really promote probably just about every session we host, but it's a great tool for you all to utilize to really post announcements to your students and kind of share information. Because of its location on the course homepage, it's an easy spot for students to look for information. So you can consider posting links links to different review sessions, as you'll see here. You can also share videos. So if you're in a class where maybe you find some interesting YouTube videos, or maybe you found a current event taking place on like CNN.com that you can share, I really encourage you to try to utilize the news tool to share information like that. So this will help keep your students engaged, and will just kind of add some variety to your course. Also, you have the ability to add audio clips relatively easily. So I'm going to go to create a new news item and just show you really quick how you can go about doing this. So in the headline, I'm just going to put, check out this audio clip. And you can type in a message in the content. But what it's going to allow you to do is record your audio, or your voice. And you don't have to have any kind of special software. All you'll need is a microphone or your headset, of course. But what we're going to do is scroll down to the bottom down here, and it's actually in the attachment section. You'll see that there's a record audio button. If you click there, it's going to open up the recorder for the system. Hopefully it'll work in this view. If it's your first time using it, you will have to go in and allow the Flash player to work. And then you'll see all you have to do to record is click this little red button, and it will pick up your audio. So you can record up to a minute worth of audio, and when you're done, you'll just click that add button, and it'll actually attach your audio clip to the news announcement. So this is ideal for like welcome messages, or maybe if you want to post kind of a weekly welcome message, you know, to kind of get your students motivated each week, I would certainly encourage you all to try to use this record audio feature. I'll go ahead and cancel that. Also, while we're here, we might have dismissed some of these in this view, but I'm going to click back in the news list here. And some of you may have already noticed these What's New in 10.3 news announcements. Anytime you see these type of announcements with like the little globe next to them, that indicates a global news item, and those are actually coming from the USG level. So they're actually sharing different resources regarding what's new in 10.3. So be sure to check those out. There's some great information in those posts, and also those are going to be made available to your students, so you can encourage them to check those out as well. But these will be posted periodically throughout the semester. Okay. So now we're going to move into the content tool and talk about a few items. And the first thing I want to point out is just to be aware if you remove any course items, whether it be a Dropbox, a quiz, anything like that that you decide not to use, you want to make sure that you also remove it from the content. If you leave the link in the content tool, it's going to appear to your students as a broken link, and you're probably going to receive a lot of emails from students saying, you know, I can't access this assignment, or I can't access this quiz, even if you intend not to assign it. So I'll show you a quick example in this module here. Let me actually do it this way so it's not so junky looking. I'll collapse some of these. So here I've got a module with all of my Dropbox folders, and you'll see one of the nice things about this system is that it'll actually show you where the broken topics are. Now, of course, you're going to have to go through and look for these indicators, but if you know you've removed a Dropbox folder, as I've done in this course, you can easily go back and look for places where that Dropbox folder would have been linked, and you'll see it indicated here where it says broken topic. So then you can easily just click on the down arrow to the right of that broken topic and click delete, and it'll remove it. And this, again, is just a great way to keep your content nice and clean, and to ensure that your students aren't finding broken links throughout the course. Okay. Also wanted to point out date restrictions. I don't know if any of you use date restrictions in your course content currently, but if you do, they'll look similar to what you see here in this Welcome Start Here module. So I just went in and plugged in a couple of dates to show that I wanted this module to become available on January 12th and to close on the 18th. Now, some of you may do this with the intention of trying to help students manage their time or pace themselves throughout the semester, but really what this does is it's going to prevent them from accessing this module until the start date, and once the module closes, they're not going to be able to return to it. So just want you to be aware of that. There are some instances where it might be necessary to prevent them from moving too far ahead or from looking or from reviewing previous content, but really it's best to keep all content open and available. You know, one of the reasons why students will take an online course is because it works best with their schedule. You know, if they want to move a little bit ahead, they can. And if, you know, we always want to allow them to go back and review content. So you just want to make sure that you're giving your students the opportunity to do that. So by using these date restrictions, you might actually be limiting them from accessing the learning material. So a suggestion might be, instead of using dates like this, is to actually go into the title of the module itself and add in the dates. So these, and you can also add these to the calendar, but it's not going to prevent students from accessing that content. So if I wanted students to, you know, if I wanted to suggest that students cover this module next week, I could just click on the title here and then go up here to the top of this title. And I'm just going to type in the date. So let's say I wanted them to begin on January 19th through January 30th or something like that, okay? So now you'll see that I've got my dates up here at the top, but the content's not going to be restricted in any way. So if students wanted to move forward or go back and review this information before or after these dates, they will certainly be able to. Okay. The next thing I want to point out is a change that has come with 10.3 regarding the content tool. And we're hoping that this will be corrected because it's kind of problematic, or it's creating some additional steps for our students. But it's regarding any PDF documents that might be embedded in your course. So previously, you may have noticed that if a PDF was included in your content, that it would open nicely right in the content window, similarly to like an HTML file. So the PDF would have opened something like this, except of course it would have been a PDF. Now what you'll notice, and I'm sure your students are noticing this as well, when it comes to accessing these PDF files, they're no longer going to open nicely in the content window. They're going to be prompted to download them. So again, it's not critical. It's not going to mess them up in any kind of way, but it is an extra step for them that they now have to click this download button, and it's going to force them to download the document to their hard drive. Now again, this is something we hope to see change in the future, but for now, just please be aware that this is what it's going to look like. And you'll see the same thing too if you try to navigate to some of the PDFs in your courses. Okay. All right, so we've covered the news tool and we've covered the content tool. So now we're going to take a look at the discussions tool. And I know there's probably a lot of questions surrounding the new layout of the discussions tool. So as I've mentioned previously, you can, I'll ask for questions at the end of this section of the webinar, but you can also type them in the chat box and we'll address them when we take a break as well. So just before we really get into the tool, just wanted to remind you of some MOU points. So during this week, you need to be sure that you're welcoming each student to your course. So most of you probably have like a From Your Instructor discussion board or an introduction type discussion board. You want to make sure that you're going into that topic and welcoming each student to your course. So this is an important point that I'm not sure that that's identified on the MOU, but it is part of your instructor evaluation. So make sure that that's something you're tackling this week. Also, we haven't begun to track discussion participation yet, but be sure that in the coming weeks that you try to reach that 5 to 7 substantive discussion posts minimum, and that's per week. And so you can do that in any of the weekly discussion topics. You can contribute to your number of weekly posts by posting to your community discussion boards, or continue to post to the From Your Instructor discussion topics, places like that, but make sure that you're consistently posting into the discussions tool. And with those posts, make sure that you're addressing your students by name. Okay, so now let's get into this new layout. So many of you have asked, how do you get back to that grid view? And unfortunately, it's not available at this time, but it is going to be coming back. We don't have a certain date yet. We've heard different rumors of when it might come back, but we certainly don't want to get your hopes up on a set date, but just know that it is coming back in the future. But for now, we have to work with this new layout, so I just want to kind of quickly go over the new layout. First, let's go ahead and look at some personal settings that will help you facilitate your discussions. So at the beginning of the term, or you can do this right now, what you'll want to do when you get into the discussions tool is go to the settings menu up here at the top right. And I would recommend showing the discussion list pane, and I'll show you what that is in a minute, but it really will help you navigate through your discussion topics. So I would recommend checking always show the discussion list pane. I would also recommend that you check in the reply settings section, include original post and reply. So what this will do is when you click to reply to a student, it will actually put in the original post into that text box that opens. So this will just kind of help you stay organized and on top of the threads as you participate with your students. So really you'll see that there's not that many options here as of right now, but again, these are the two that I recommend, and click Save. Okay. And so now what we'll look at, let's say we were to go into one of these topics. I'm going to show you what that discussion pane is. So what we're going to look at here is the discussion pane over to the left. So this is going to allow you to easily click through the different discussion topics. Anna, do you have a question?
Yes. I have never used the rating for discussions, but I remember during training, we used it. And what do you have to recommend or not recommend about doing that? I have been a little of two minds, I guess the way to put it. It seems like it would be neat to use it so that peers were letting others, their fellow classmates know what they thought about the discussions, kind of maybe help encourage people to do better. But then again, on the other side of that coin is the fact that most of our discussions in English are graded. And, I go in and I evaluate them myself. And I just wasn't sure whether it would be a good idea to have both going on at the same time. I hope that makes sense.
It certainly does make sense, and we've had a lot of questions about that recently. And I don't think it's something that you'll want to use with every discussion topic. And it may not even be suited for your course at all, but it is an option that's available. But now students aren't necessarily going to be able to see who gave them, which ratings. Additionally, you'll be able to see the ratings that each student received, but as far as grading, I think you just need to stick to your current methods. The rating feature would be best suited for, if they're sharing different methods maybe for solving a problem. Maybe they wanted to get in there and post, well, here's how I did it, and you can rate it. They can rate each other in that way. If other students really like the way that student solved the problem, then they can do it in that way. And then they kind of know when they go back, they can reference those posts that have the high number of ratings. Does that make sense?
Yes. I wonder, maybe as an example, perhaps on the chart for genre and myth that they post to share with one another, that could possibly, go ahead and use a rating for that one discussion.
That's certainly something we can talk about after the session and see if that will work for your course.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on, I went ahead and changed into another course so that you can quickly see a course that's actually has some discussion participation. But I'm going to go back into this first topic again and show you the discussion list pane that appears over to the left. So when I'm in one topic, if I'm reviewing and I'm replying to my students, I can quickly look over here to the left and I can see all of my other topics, and I can see those that have unread posts. So I know once I get finished participating in my topic 1A that I need to look into topic 1B because I've got 3 unread posts there. So it's just kind of a navigation feature that will just help you move from topic to topic. So you'll see you can just click on 1B and it will take you straight there. You can also move from forum to forum. So you'll see that you've got your other forum up here at the top, and you see that you've got 2 unread posts there as well. So you could go into your main forum and quickly access any topics there that you need to tend to. Okay. So while we're in a topic, let's talk a little bit about how you can facilitate your discussion postings. So right off the bat, we're going to look at some sorting options. So if you click on this little drop down here, you'll see that you've got a lot of different sorting options. And again, we're inside of the topic, so this is going to refer to the students' posts, okay, so their actual threads. So you can sort by recent activity, the newest thread, the oldest thread. You can even sort by the author's first name or last name. Also, you've got additional filter options over here to the left, so you can choose to sort or to filter by only unread posts. So if you wanted to only look at those that were unread in the topic, all you have to do is click there, and it will filter to the only the unread posts. And to get rid of that filter, you just click the X. Okay. And then each one of these is going to show the original post. So while each of these is its own thread, it's going to show the original post here from this view. So what you'll want to do to actually reply to your students is simply just click on the subject line here, and then you'll just click reply to thread. Now, if any other students have posted responses to this thread, you'll see them listed below here, but we'll see that there are no replies in this thread. But all you have to do is click the blue button. You'll see that it's going to paste in the original text because that was the option that we selected in our settings previously. And then you can just continue to type in to your student. This is golf. Okay, and then when you're done with your post, you just click post. Okay, so now we see that our recent post has just appeared in this thread. Okay. Just as you could before, you have the ability to subscribe to topics. You can also subscribe to forums. You can look for the subscribe link in the little star and simply click there. And you'll have some options to choose regarding notification methods. You can also click the down arrow to the right of, oops, I'm sorry, I have to go back one more. See, we're still learning too. From this view here, you can click the down arrow to the right of any of the topics, and you'll see subscribe listed there as well, and you'll have the same options appear. And you can also subscribe to individual threads, but generally we recommend subscribing to either the topic for that week, or you can subscribe to like topics where maybe your students are going to be posting questions. So if you have like a Q&A type discussion topic, you could subscribe to that, and then that way you'll receive notifications whenever your students have a question posted. Okay. And then before we move on to the quizzes tool, I just want to quickly cover a couple of discussion properties. So I'm going to go into edit topic. And just want to make sure that you all are aware of the differences between the availability and locking options. So when we talk about the availability of a topic, we're really talking about the visibility of that topic. So we're talking about can the student see the topic, okay? So you've got some options here. Topic is always visible. hide this topic, or topic is visible for a specific date range. So you can actually choose when a topic is going to become visible, and then you can actually remove it again based on the date criteria you list. If you do not intend to assign any one discussion topic, you can hide the topic and students will never be able to see it. But generally you want to keep it on topic as always visible. So our locking options, that's pretty straightforward when we talk about locking a topic. So you can keep it unlocked, you can lock it, or you can unlock it for a specific date range. So it will unlock based on the start and the end date that you have listed, but it will otherwise be locked. Now the benefit of using the locking options versus availability is that even if a topic is locked, students can still go back and review posts. Okay, so it'll still allow them to go back and see like the discussions that took place. Whereas if you were to hide the topic, students are no longer going to be able to go back and look at the posts of their peers or anything like that. So it's generally best if you want to kind of control them in that way to use the locking options. The only time I would recommend using the availability options is if you want to completely hide a topic, or if it's a topic like a midterm evaluation where you maybe want it to only be visible for a certain amount of time. Okay, I see some questions in the chat box. Okay, so Dr. Deaton, the term subscribe seems to mean different things. Please explain. Do you mean, Dr. Deaton, it means different things in this system versus the older one, or can you kind of explain a little bit further? See you typing, so we'll just put it on pause for a minute. Give you a good definition. Okay, so if you subscribe to a topic, so let's say that right now students are going to be posting to topic 1A, political process. So if I subscribe to this topic, I can actually get an instant notification sent to either my email, or you can even put in your mobile number and get an instant notification when a student has posted to that topic. So it can be an original post, it could be that they've posted a reply to one of their peers. You'll see that Lawrence has it set up so that emails will be sent to her WestGA email address. So if she were to subscribe to this thread, she's going to receive an email the next time someone posts in this topic. Another example would be, as I mentioned previously, like if you have a question and answer discussion board, or a discussion board that's called Questions for Your Instructor, where students are going to go to ask you questions. You could also subscribe to that, and then instead of having to constantly check in, you can actually receive notifications for when students have posted to that board. Now, of course, you're going to be in your course often anyways, but it just kind of allows you a quick glance, a quick notification of when students are actually posting questions, because a lot of times they can be time sensitive. Does that help clarify? Sounds better. Well, if you have any other questions, certainly let us know. But we use it a lot, like when we have our faculty certification courses, we will often subscribe to some of those discussion topics, so we know when faculty have important questions, we can make sure that we go in there and address them as quick as possible. All right, so I'm going to move out of the discussions tool, but if you've got questions, we'll certainly leave time for that in a little bit. So I'm going to quickly look at quizzes. So not many changes took place within the quizzes tool, but one thing I do want to point out to you is that they did relocate the Add Edit Questions section. So I don't know if you remember previously there was a tab here at the very end that was called Layout Questions. So that has been removed, and now you'll see the Add Edit Questions section is actually part of this Properties tab here. So that's where you can kind of go to review which questions are in your exams or your quizzes. If you want to add or modify any of those questions, you can simply click here to do that, but it's all housed in the Properties tab now. And we'll have a quizzes webinar later in the semester where we'll actually talk about these changes in further detail. Most of you probably saw the email sent out yesterday about Respondus Lockdown Browser. This feature is found in the Restrictions tab, and it's a security option, but we recommend that you do not enable Respondus Lockdown Browser because we don't really have any way of ensuring that the student's computer is going to be configured properly or a computer lab's computer is going to be configured properly. Additionally, let's say a student goes to a library or something like that, they may not have the ability to download anything on that machine. So just be aware of those features. Don't accidentally check them. But if you know for certain that that's something that you have enabled, be sure to go back and disable those so that students don't have any issues taking their quizzes. Also want to make sure that you all are aware of the Submissions View tab. This is not a new feature, but just one that sometimes gets overlooked. But the Submissions View controls what your students are able to see after they submit their quiz. So you'll see from looking at this, they're not really able to see much. So show questions, no, it's not going to show any statistics. So chances are the only thing that they're going to be able to see is their grade in the grade book. So we have some instructions we can share with you on how to change this, but if you want your students to be able to go back and review their quiz attempts and see things like the questions, maybe the question answers, questions they answered incorrectly, things like that, just know that you have the ability to control some of those options. So you can see here, you've got a lot of different options that you can choose from, but unless you go in and select some of these features, chances are students are only going to be able to see their quiz grade. So just make sure that you kind of pay attention to that or think about it. We can certainly help you enable some of these features, but if you've got students that start to email you saying, I really want to review my past quiz attempts, know that what you need to do is go into the Submissions View tab and kind of tinker around with some of these features here. Alrighty. Okay, and then just a couple more things. So one thing you want to do before you release a quiz to your students is make sure that you preview the quiz. So you can do this very easily by clicking on the down arrow to the right of the quiz title and clicking Preview. Now this is going to allow you to preview the quiz just as your students will see it, but the point behind doing this is to make sure you kind of eliminate any obvious errors. So maybe if you've got images in your quizzes, you want to make sure that they're showing. But you want to just kind of quickly scroll through, look for spelling errors and that sort of thing. But this is just a best practice to make sure that your students aren't going to encounter any issues throughout their quizzes or exams. So you just want to give it a quick look over, and you can actually go in and select some of the questions. And then when you're done, you can just click Exit Preview. And then last thing to point out, and kind of piggybacking on the best practice of previewing your quizzes, is you want to review the quiz statistics after the availability period has ended. So again, by clicking on the down arrow to the right of the quiz title and going to Statistics, we can actually review a lot of valuable information. So in the first tab, you've got user statistics, which will just simply show you how each student performed. But what I want to draw your attention to are the question statistics. So the question statistics will show you the number of students that answered each question correctly. So these are just some of our demo courses, so we obviously did not do too well when we were taking these quizzes as demo students. But you really want to be on the lookout for the types of questions where students aren't answering them correctly. So if you've got a lot of questions in that kind of red area, that might mean that you might need to revisit the question and kind of reword it, or maybe there's incorrect answer choices listed or things like that where the student's kind of being set up to fail. You know, not intentionally, of course, but these statistics can show you where errors do exist. So just again, another best practice, just try to kind of go through occasionally and review these statistics and look at those questions and see, why are students getting this wrong? The question itself might be fine. It could be that maybe there's something missing from the content that we need to reevaluate. So again, this is an important best practice not only for your quizzes but for your exams as well. If you find that your students aren't doing well in your midterm and final exams, then we might need to take a look at this, and we can certainly look at it with you and just make sure that we can't, that there aren't improvements that need to be made. Okie dokie. So before Lauren jumps in, are there any questions that I can quickly answer about the news tool, the content tool, discussions, or quizzes? And keep in mind that if you need specific assistance with your course, that we can set up some one-on-one calls with you. All right, I don't see anyone typing, so Lauren and I are going to have to swap computers again, so I do apologize, but give us just a second to get resettled, and we'll get going on section 2. All right, everyone. I'm back to my seat. We appreciate y'all letting us play a little bit of Twilight Zone today. I'm switching voices and bodies here. Continuing on with what Ashley's been talking about, we wanted to move forward for the second half of the presentation to cover the Dropbox tool, the grades tool, and then as mentioned previously, we're going to move into some external course resources. Just some resources that are available to you as faculty to help you support your classes, different means and some forms that are here inside of your class. So first I want to go ahead and move to our Dropbox tool. Of course, that's located under the Assessments tab in your course. And I wanted to use this session to really focus on some of your visibility options and restrictions for the Dropbox, as well as some of the feedback features that are available to you to really help you provide some individualized and constructive feedback to your students, all while maintaining that required 7-day turnaround time. The reason that I wanted to focus on the visibility of the Dropbox assignment is that this tool works a little bit different than your other activities in the course. You know that with your quizzes, you can set those to be inactive and they're hidden from your students, or for discussions, you can actually hide those, and again, your students won't be able to find them. By default, the Dropbox tool is going to be completely visible to your students, and all of these activities are accessible on day 1 when they log in if you don't place any restrictions on each of these activities. So it's very important that you set start and end dates for your Dropbox assignments so that you can mediate when your students start to look at these assignments and they don't work ahead or get confused. You'll notice also the very last column we have our due date, so students can use this column to really help them pace themselves out throughout the semester. You always want to assign the due dates and the activities in addition to the calendar, again, so that students can look at this and easily understand what's expected of them in the days to come. So we also want to make sure that our Dropbox tool, like everything else, we delete any items that we don't plan on assigning this term. So we want this page to be completely accurate when our students first log in. So for example, I may be teaching an 8-week section and I feel that this course load is way too heavy for our students. If there's an activity that I don't plan to assign this semester, so for example, perhaps in this course, I know that the diversity match assignment is sort of an optional activity that's not necessarily needed to fulfill our objectives in the class, and I don't want to use it this term. I can delete this activity from the course list by going to More Actions. You'll select the Delete Trash Can, and then you'll just select any items that you're not utilizing this semester. So I've checked the Unit 4 activity, and I'm going to go ahead and remove that from my course. Again, this presentation is really about making sure that your entire course is consistent and accurate. So it's always a best practice to go ahead and get activities you're not using out of your classroom to avoid confusion for your students. So once we know all of the unused items have been removed from the Dropbox, the next thing we want to do is go ahead and start placing those restrictions. So again, we want to assign a start date and an end date for our activities. So I'm going to go into this Unit 2 activity by selecting the down arrow and Edit Folder. And we want to do this through the Restrictions tab at the top. Now, something else that's different about the Dropbox from other assignments is you'll notice we have a start date, a due date, and an end date. Now the start date, of course, is just when students will be able to access the instructions for this activity and begin posting or submitting their final projects. So we can select the date and time this activity opens. The due date is the final date that it's your initial deadline that you expect your students to submit their assignments by. The due date is what your students can actually see. So you remember earlier there was that due date column. So this will be the deadline your students plan to have all of their submissions in the course. So you want to make sure to go ahead and set the due date. And finally, the third option is really, it's up to your choice, but I think this is a great addition to the Dropbox feature. The end date is going to be completely hidden from your students. So this is only for your use as the instructor. If you would like to keep this assignment, I guess the best way to say would be secretly open for your students to continue submitting work in. You can use the end date to keep this Dropbox open while students think that it closed on the initial deadline. So for example, if I wanted all of my students to turn in their assignment on January 23rd, we would go ahead and select this as the due date. And then I may choose to actually leave this Dropbox open for another week to let students turn in assignments late. Now students again can't see that, but this sort of saves you time from having to use the special access feature where you would need to extend the deadline for individual students as issues come up. So this can save you a lot of time throughout the semester, again, just to take in those late submissions. Okay, now you will notice below the availability dates, most of the discussions and the quizzes have the option to add this activity to your course calendar. You'll notice that there's not a checkbox for this inside of your Dropbox tool, so you'll want to make sure to add an entry for these assignments inside of your course calendar manually. Of course, that's the best practice to do that for all of your assignments, but just remember for the Dropbox, there's no checkbox here to automatically do it, so you'll need to go in and create that post yourself. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save and close. Now that pretty much sums this up in terms of visibility and restricting access to the Dropbox. The other area we wanted to focus on for best teaching practices or course management for this tool are really focusing on the individual feedback tools available to you. Now the first one is going to be, you'll notice down at the very bottom, the last assignment, Unit 8, shows an additional icon. This icon means that Turnitin has been activated for this assignment, which allows students to submit their work to a plagiarism detection service. If you'd like to use that option in your course for grading, then you can do that underneath the Edit Properties or go to Edit Folder. And you'll notice you have the option for an originality check. If you check this option, again, your students' work will be checked for plagiarism, and I'll show you an example of what that looks like here in just a little bit, but that'll allow you to see whether any of their work may have been pulled off of the web. It'll review different articles and resources throughout the internet. So this can be a really great tool for you as an instructor. Okay, other feedback options, if I'm going into my first assignment and I scroll down, you'll be able to see all of your students' submissions at the bottom of the page. Now something that has changed from past semesters, you used to be only able to grade students' submissions here if they actually turned in an assignment. So if one of your students missed this activity, you couldn't give them a 0 from the Dropbox. You had to go all the way back to the grade book and do it in a separate location. So something that's new with 10.3 is if I want to toggle my users to show everyone and then click the magnifying glass, you'll see that I can easily go through and I can assign a grade to everyone in my class, whether they submitted an assignment or, submitted an attempt to this assignment or not. The next thing you'll notice for this student, as we mentioned earlier, I wanted to set an end date for this activity. So I can see clearly that the student submitted this assignment January 16th at 12:50, but they submitted the assignment 1 hour past the original deadline. Again, they were able to submit because they used the end date feature. But this will help you determine if you decide a student is perhaps submitting 2 weeks late or a week late. If you feel that points should be reducted or certain feedback should be provided, it's nice to see how late the student was in turning that assignment in. So you can differentiate between those submitted on the initial deadline and those submitted on the due date. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. If I'm ready to grade this assignment, I'm going to click Evaluate. And a few things to just quickly point out. There are a lot of different ways to leave feedback inside of the Dropbox tool. Of course, you can download the student submission here. And once you're ready to grade, you can go ahead and select the score that that student has obtained. And this score will go directly to your gradebook and be visible to your students. So maybe I'll give this assignment a 48 out of 50. Below that, we have the option to actually type in individual feedback. So perhaps you want to tell the student that they did a wonderful job, but next time include more examples. Like most of the other areas in your class, you can also get really creative with your feedback. So perhaps if you want to insert a video, an image, or even a quick link to a website that has more resources or information on this topic, you could use that using any of these 3 features here. Below the feedback box, you also have 2 other really great options to kind of customize your course. You can add a file. So this may come in handy perhaps for some of our English or history folks here that typically get a lot of papers. Perhaps you've added annotations or comments on their Word document and you want to return that to your students. You could attach that file using an Add File feature. You also have the option to record audio. So if you want to personalize your class, you can record up to 1 minute feedback for your students to give them a few suggestions on their activity. So you just simply click the Record Audio button, and then you'll start recording your text. Once you've saved that, click Add at the bottom, and it will attach that audio playback to your students. So when they go to review their grade in the Grades tool, they can just click on their score and they can hear your voice telling them they did a great job, or maybe they need to improve before next time. Once you've finished all of the feedback for this student, you'll want to publish down at the bottom. And that's going to push your grade out to your gradebook and also send that feedback straight to your student. Now, we've had a lot of questions in the past about how that looks to my students if I provide feedback to them. So I quickly wanted to pull up a student view of this course so that you know what happens every time you provide that feedback to your students. The first thing is that the system will automatically notify them that they have a new grade posted inside of the course. So the students will be targeted, or they know to come in here and check for feedback. Under the Updates area, I can see that I, as a student, have one Dropbox folder with an unread feedback. So if I come in here, I can see here next to my activity that I have unread feedback, and I can view this through the Dropbox tool. Or students can also review your feedback through their Grades tool. So as your students go to their gradebook and I scroll down, I see that Unit 1 orientation assignment, I received a 96, and I can see the feedback that you provided to me individually for this assignment. Okay, and then the last thing that's inside of our Dropbox tool we wanted to very briefly mention, again, was that Turnitin feature. I wanted to show you what that looks like in terms of whenever you have a student submit work. Once your students have turned in their work, it'll automatically go into Turnitin for that plagiarism detection. When you get ready to grade these assignments, you'll notice you have a new feature next to this activity that shows a percentage of how much of the work was deemed as plagiarized. So thankfully for this submission, it's caught 0% of the work as matching something on the internet. So if you see a student in blue, for instance, they're probably on the lower scale. If you see a lot of red or orange, then that's a student that you need to look into further to see what's being captured or what's being caught as plagiarized content. So I would simply click on that statistic bar, and it's going to go ahead and log me directly into Turnitin. Now this activity didn't have anything that was targeted as being plagiarized, but if it did, it would be highlighted on the actual paper, and then to the right column here under Match Overview, it would show me the original source so that I could match those up. In terms of feedback, you can also use the Grade Mark tab to leave comments on your students' work. So I may decide I wanted to highlight this area, and they have a few quick reference annotations that you can use, or you can click on the comment tab and type something in just that's specific to this paper. So this is sort of a great tool you can use to help you save time when you're grading, especially if you use any of these sort of saved comments that are inside the system. You can quickly go through it and provide a lot of feedback to your students. And we will be hosting, we'll go into Turnitin in a lot more depth in one of our later sessions. We have a full Turnitin session scheduled for February. So stay tuned for that if you haven't used this tool before, and if you want to learn a little bit more about it. Okay, before we go over to the grades tool, are there any questions about the visibility options or the feedback tools for the Dropbox tool? All right, then we will move into our last tool today for course management. The last item we wanted to look into was, of course, your grade book. And although we'll cover specifically how to grade activities in future sessions, for the purpose of today, we wanted to focus more so on best practices in general for the grade book, specifically mentioning consistency and accuracy, both between the grade book and the activities you're using, and also what grades you're sharing with your students. So the best way to do this inside of your gradebook is from the Manage Grades tab. You'll notice at the top. Manage Grades allows you to quickly see all of the assignments inside of your course, as well as how many points they're worth and how much weight they carry towards students' overall grade. So it's sort of a quick snapshot of your class. As previously mentioned with some of the tools in the class, if you have unused items this semester, so assignments you don't plan on using, then you want to go ahead and remove those or delete those from your grade book. So if I'm scrolling through, we remember earlier we deleted the Unit 4 Diversity Match assignment. If I look to this right column below Association, I can see that this activity is no longer connected to anything inside of my class because I didn't plan to use it. If I don't delete this item, it's still carrying weight inside of my class, and it'll appear to my students, which might be confusing for them. So if I want to remove this item, I just want to go to More Actions at the top, click the Delete Trash Can, and then I'll scroll down and select it from the list. If you're like me and you get a little bit nervous about clicking the delete button, there is a safeguard to the delete area. Any grade items that are still connected to an activity and potentially have student scores will not allow you to check them at this point. So you can see I can only remove activities that aren't attached to an assignment in the course. Okay, so I've removed the activities I'm not assigning. The next item that you want to take care of for management in your gradebook is to make sure that your gradebook is calculating out of a total of 100%. As you all know, your gradebooks by default are set up at the start of the term, but sometimes if you add activities throughout the semester or perhaps you remove activities, that 100% scale can become skewed. And the disadvantage to that is obviously it's going to show you an incorrect running average for your students. So if your gradebook is not calculating properly, it will go ahead and send you a quick notification we see note at the top. Our final calculated grade sums to 125, not 100. We immediately know that there's something wrong here and we need to take a look at our grade book and get it fixed. So if you see this here, usually the culprit is going to be that you have some type of floating grade item in your class. And what I mean by floating is just that there's an assignment that doesn't belong to one of the categories in our course. So we have these major grade categories like participation is 25% of the course average, quizzes are 10%. A floating grade item would be something that's not currently being associated with that category. So if I scroll down, for example, I can see that perhaps this instructor decided to assign points to the normally not graded syllabus discussion. So we need to go ahead and we need to associate this with the participation category. We know that it's floating by itself because it's indented, or it's not indented, and it's all the way to the left, whereas these other 3 items are shown underneath participation tabbed over. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this grade item. And then all you'll need to do is underneath the category area, you want to select the grade category that, or the grade group that this is associated with. So since this was a discussion, I'm just going to click participation. And then I'll scroll down and click save and close. You can see now that it's actually associated with the participation average and tabbed over. Now we've gotten closer, but I can still see that our gradebook is still not quite at 100%, so I want to keep scrolling through here to see what might be the issue. The other item that usually causes this is when a new final exam or midterm is added to the course that wasn't already there. So perhaps you created a unique final exam or midterm this semester and created a grade item for it. You've done the exact right thing, but we need to go one step further. All of your classes, to make sure that they factor out of 100%, are already going to have a grade category for these individual exams. So we can see here that the final exam category counts 15%, but that the final exam activity itself is also counting an additional 15%. So we need to group these together. So just like we did with the discussion, I'm going to click on that grade activity. Under category, I'll select the final exam. And when I save and close those changes, we'll see that those items have been grouped and that our warning message has gone away. So our gradebook is now factored out of 100%. Now again, it's important to keep this at all times where everything factors out to 100 so that both you as the instructor know what your students' current averages are, but also if you decide to release the rolling average to your students, that they have a good interpretation of their standing in the course, rather than get to the end of the term and it go up or down by a grade letter. So it's really important that you keep an eye on this. Okay, the last item that I want to cover very quickly in the gradebook in terms of management are your personal settings and view. As your instructor, you have the option to select the settings gear at the top right-hand side of the screen. And the very first tab, the personal display options, will allow you to customize your gradebook view to reflect your personal preferences. Anything that you change under the personal display options tab will not affect your student's view of the grades. This will only change the way you see your gradebook. So what we recommend is that you may want to play around with the grade details area. By default, the points grade and grade scheme color will be checked inside of your gradebook. The points grade is just associated with showing you the number value or the score students get on each one of those individual assignments. And the grade scheme color is going to show you, it relates that score to a color inside of the grade book. So for example, if a student gets an A, it'll appear in blue. If they get a B, it'll appear in green. And then also if they got a lower grade, perhaps a D or an F, it's going to show up in a salmon or a red color. So we recommend typically that you keep the grade scheme colored option checked so that you can quickly identify areas in the course where students are struggling. If you see that a lot of students in discussion number 2 are all showing up in the red, Let me go back and show you this. If we see that one assignment has a lot of red or a lot of salmon, then this might be an activity that we need to go back and review, as Ashley was showing earlier with the quizzes. Or perhaps this is something that we need to go over specifically again with our students before a proctored exam to ensure that they really understand this content before moving forward. You can also use the red or the salmon indicators to look for at-risk students. For example, we see here that Foxtrot has missed 2 assignments in a row. This student clearly needs someone to reach out to them, check in on the course, and try to help them get re-engaged. So perhaps this is someone you want to report to the SEED system for additional help. So let me go back to those personal settings. The other items that you'll need to take a look at inside of your grade book are the weighted grade and the grade scheme symbol. The weighted grade will need to be checked in order for you to see the student's final calculated averages in your course. You probably don't notice this until the end of the term when you're getting ready to submit your grades, but the calculated average inside of your grade book is by default blank and will only show you the color for that student's average. If you want to see that, you'll need to select the weighted grade option so that you can see their average in the form of a fraction. So it might show as 9 out of 10 or 90 out of 100 for their score. Or you can select the grade scheme symbol, which will also show you the final average, but it will show you it as a percent. So instead of 9/10, we would see 90%. You can choose to check both of these or either one of them individually, just depending on how much information you want inside of your grade book. I personally like to check the grade scheme symbol. We typically recommend that you don't make any changes to the other 2 tabs in your gradebook settings. The org unit display options and calculation options have all been set by default to the best views and the best setup for your students. So I would probably just stick to the personal display options and stay safe within your gradebook. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save and Close. And now when I come back to my gradebook, I can see I have all of my colors, all of my colors showing up. I can see my student scores, and I can see the average, their final calculated grades. Okay, and that is all we have on here to cover the gradebook for best practices for today. Before we move on to the external resources for your courses, were there any questions about the grades tool, Dropbox, or anything else we covered inside of the class before we go to external tools? All right, got a quiet bunch today. All right, our next items we wanted to touch on were some of the, as we mentioned, external resources available to both our newer faculty and some of our veteran faculty that you can use throughout the semester to really help support your students, but also help support your class. The first item that I wanted to draw to your attention is inside of the content area of your course. Inside of every class, if you scroll to the very bottom of your table of contents, you will all have a Faculty Forms and Resources folder. This folder is hidden from your students, so all of the resources inside are not accessible to them. You'll notice that you'll have several different items inside of this folder of your course. The list may vary depending on your subject area. There are different resources available for different classes. But you'll have a few items that go across the board regardless of your course section. The first are the eCore faculty forms. These forms are items you'll use throughout the semester for different things in your class. If at the end you need to submit an incomplete form or a grade change, you can also submit an academic honesty form. The 2 that I wanted to point out today is the change request form and the student reinstatement form. Something that's changed from the past is that we wanted to make sure that we maintain the security of these resources. So you'll notice anytime you go to these items, if I want to select change request form, I'm prompted to select a username and a password. To make this a little easier for faculty, we've provided that login credential on the same page as these form links. all faculty are going to use the same generic username and password to access these forms. So for my username, I want to use eCoreFac, and for password, I'll use eCore09. Okay, and it's going to bring me directly inside of that faculty form. It'll work the same way for each one of those resources. So this one, the change request form, we always like to bring to your attention at the beginning of the term. As you know, we're constantly trying to improve our classes. We're looking for any areas that we can that there are errors in that we should update, or if you have a great idea for something you've seen in the course that's worked well, let us know. You can use the change request form to formally request that the CI team make an update inside of your class. So if you submit this, use your name, course description, you'll provide details on the change that you're recommending or that you would like to see. And we recommend that you make this description as detailed as possible so that we can change, if it's an error, we can update it really quickly. Something to be aware of is that you probably don't want to use special characters inside of the form. Sometimes that'll cause some issues when you try to submit. But otherwise, we just recommend that you use this throughout the term to let us know if there's a problem in the course. So this might be, there was a wrong answer selected in a quiz, or you found a typo in the content. You can change it in your individual section, but keep in mind that it'll come back next semester when we reload that content. So by submitting the change request form, we can fix that issue for all of our classes, both this term and all of the future courses. The other item is the student reinstatement form. This is brand new this semester, and we'll cover this again in our attendance verification webinar. But you can use this form shortly after you report your attendance next week. You can have students reinstated into your course up to the second week of class, so the end of next week. And this would be if you incorrectly report a student as being absent. So perhaps the student got into the class late, or there was an issue or glitch with their submission to the MAQ quiz. You can use this to have the student put back in your course. So this is just a really quick way to have them reinstated without sort of having to go through emails or contacting the institution. Okay, the other item that you have as a faculty member as a resource is the SEED student reporting system. If I go back to my faculty forms, I'll see that there's also an individual link to the login portal for SEEDS. For any of our newer faculty, we will provide a separate full webinar on the SEEDS system. I believe that's coming up at the end of next week, but we'll take a look at that in just a little bit. But each one of you will receive your own unique username and password to log into the SEEDS system. If you're brand new, then you'll receive an individual email at the end of next week from our success team with your login credentials to use this system. But the SEEDS system will allow you to report any students who might be struggling inside of your class. So you want to monitor your students' activity on a weekly basis for students who perhaps haven't been logging in or missed an assignment, or even students who might need writing assistance and what you would like us to point them in the direction of some of our tutoring services. You can report those students to the SEEDS system, and a student engagement team member will reach out to them via their personal phone number or via email. If you have any questions about the SEEDS system when we get started reporting, and again, we won't start using SEEDS until the end of next week, you want to send any of those questions to our eSuccess team at esuccess@usga.edu. And they'll be able to provide assistance to you if you can't get logged in, or if you have questions about the students you reported. Okay, now I'm going to transition back to our PowerPoint real quick so I can finish up with a few of our upcoming webinars that will be showing in the next few weeks in January. But before I bring that PowerPoint back up, were there any questions about accessing some of these forms and resources inside of your class? All right. Well, in that case, then, just be aware again that there are those resources available to you. But as Ashley has mentioned previously, you can also always reach out to any of our team members, or we encourage you to refer to some of these past webinars from previous terms, or the ones that we're completing throughout this semester for additional support and training. Looking ahead, we have 3 more sessions in January. Our next training will be next week, Tuesday, January 20th at 10 a.m., and that will be to cover the attendance verification process. The end of next week, on Friday, January 23rd at 12 p.m. noon, we'll also cover the SEED system and reporting. And then finally, on Tuesday, January 27th at 3, we'll go over all of the communication tools inside of your class. We're going to take a lot closer look at the new discussion forums and their new discussion tool, some of the other features available to you, so your Blackboard Collaborate rooms, your news items, and those sort of things that you can use to communicate with your students throughout the term. If you have any questions in the meantime about anything we covered today or anything from your class, please feel free to reach out to any of the members of the eCourse CI team. I have all of our contact information on the screen here now, and we appreciate everyone joining us today. We know it's a hectic week, but we hope that the information will be helpful to you as you continue to prepare your classes and really just get ready for a great and successful term. So thank you everyone for joining us today. We appreciate you being here. Thank you, Lauren. And I just posted the sign-in link, or the sign-in sheet link in the chat box for those of you that joined us a little late. I'll go ahead and bring it up in the content viewer here as well. So go ahead and complete that if you didn't get to previously. And thanks for joining us. Have a good weekend.